welcome to this week's show. And on this week's show, we're going to be focusing on XTC albums. Today's special guests, we've got Ursula and we've got Ian.
Hello.
Wait for the delayed reaction there. And we're going to be focusing on the 12 studio albums of XTC. What we're not going to do is refer really to the Dukes of Stratosphere albums or EPs or whatever they are. They're slightly extended, just due to the fact that it was sort of in character and it's just a little bit sort of different. Ian, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you said 12, I started panicking. I started counting them up. Oh, there's 12. God.
Any thoughts on the Dukes?
Well, the Dukes. I've honestly not listened to them that much, but I was playing it today, and it's great.
Yeah.
They're both. They can both turn their hand to it superbly. They're both adept at it. You think maybe one would be good, not the other. But both Partridge and Moulton do a really good job on it. It's really, really good material.
Ursula, any thoughts?
Well, I like the Dukes, but I was going to say if we included them with XTC, I think XTC are just so complex as it is. I think it would probably blow your mind if you added the Dukes on top of all the XTC albums. So I think it's best to keep them separate, I think.
No, so, I totally agree with you. And I will be referring to them at some point, though, when we do certain albums, because I think the influence is actually quite sort of clear. Right, so we've got 12 albums. Just before we sort of kick in with regards to XTC, when did people generally get into XTC then? So, Ursula, you go first.
Well, I was only young. I was about sort of 9 or 10 when Making Plans for Nigel came out, and I just remember seeing them on Top of the Pops, and it was such a groundbreaking record. I mean, there was a lot of good music then anyway, but it was such a groundbreaking record. I remember at school the next day on the bus home, I was like telling all my friends about them, and they were all oblivious to it because they were still into like, ABBA and Brotherhood of Man and people like that. But I said, oh, did you not see this great band on Top of the Pops last night? So it's ironic I've been asked to do the albums, because for the first few years I was sort of mainly into their singles and buying all their sort of chart singles that I had. And in fact, after 1982, I actually thought they might have split up, because anyone in the UK knows that they sort of started having or stopped having like chart hits after about 1982, and I just assumed, being sort of young and naive, that they just weren't around anymore. And it wasn't till later when like one of my friends said, oh, you're not still buying their albums. I didn't realize they were still making albums, and that's when I sort of delved into like the back catalogue and sort of started really enjoying all their sort of album tracks as well as the singles.
Excellent.
So that was me.
It's the same for me, to be honest. It was 79 Plans for Nigel, of Top of the Pops, it was about 10, and it was the same for me. And then I liked, as you say, some of the singles, and then sort of drifted away. And then it was seeing them do the meeting place on the Tube.
Oh yes, yes.
They went to the old scenery for the Prisoner down in Port Merion, and I thought, wow, that's fantastic. And then got the album at the time.
The Tube was a great show anyway, wasn't it?
It was a great show, and then sort of got back into them. Ian, how about you?
I'm going to be boring and say it's almost identical to myself, singles. I didn't really get the albums probably until you had the record shop, and then I got the records from you, one by one, the first few. But I just remember getting like bargain bucket singles from W.H. Smith for like, I don't know, 60 pence or something for Respectable Street. I remember getting Flexi Pop one year with Looking for Footprints on. It had one song on a I think it was a yellow bit of plastic where you had to weigh it down with a 1 pence coin, but it was all on the cheap. But then later on I started getting into their albums, now look back. But similar to Ursula, I kind of dropped off after probably like English Settlement, and they were producing albums, and I think it was probably, it might have been you said that talking about the Skylarking album, and I listened to that. I thought, bloody hell, that's fantastic, and kind of I was back on, and certainly with Oranges and Lemons, I went out to buy that the day it came out.
Yeah.
But then again, I kind of drifted off, and I didn't kind of get the last couple of albums, Wasp Star and Apple Venus, until not that many years ago. You know, maybe about, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah, no,
like
I'm the same with the last two albums, funnily enough, and that was through you. so there you have it. Right then, let's start the rundown. Then who'd like to go first? Anybody?
I don't mind.
Go on then, Ursula, you go first, then we'll go to Ian, then we'll do me. So what have we got on a 12th place then?
Right. Okay. Well, 12th place, I've put Wasp Star, and only for the reason that I haven't really listened to it as much as all the other XTC albums. And to be honest, I've probably only listened to it all the way through about 2 or 3 times. And it was just merely the fact that I just can't get into it like I could with the other albums. So, I mean, it probably is quite a good album. And I'm not saying there's any bad songs on it, because there's probably quite a few good songs on it, but it just didn't grab me. Usually, you know, with XTC albums, there's always one song that usually grabs you straight away. And there wasn't that song to grab me. So just purely for that reason, I've put it 12th, but I mean, it's be a good album. So, I mean, you know, I've just put it 12 just because I haven't heard it that much. So I'll give it about, well, I can't really rate it because I've only heard it a few times, but maybe two and a bit out of 5, maybe, from what I've heard. So. Okay,
and so I'm going to just put the rankings up there. So about 2.5 there, and so Ursula's got it down as fair. All right, which is a fair comment, pardon the pun. So as you can see, folks, there we've got the rankings. 5 being a masterpiece, 4.5 essential, 4 excellent, 3.5 very good, 3 good, 2.5 fair, 2 weak, 1.5 very poor, 1 awful, and there has been the odd awful album that's appeared on the show. Madness is the madness, dear me. And 0.5 stars that we haven't reached with Don't Bother yet. We haven't actually hit that stage yet, but the Madness album was very, very close to it. But that's another matter. Ian, what have you got in at 12?
Right, I'll be pleased to get this one out of the way. I don't like this album at all. I've never liked it. I've tried many times, but I just can't. I can't get into it. You can probably see there. It's Go To. I don't see it as being XTC. They seem to go down a, you know, after the first album, I think they seem to go down a cul-de-sac, and there was no way out. That's what this album is to me. It's kind of, well, they can't go any further as they are. I don't particularly like any of the songs. There's not one that kind of, I mean, the American version had, Are You Receiving Me? Was the Are You Receiving Me, I think. So if it had something like that to grab hold of, just like what you were saying earlier, you know, if there's one song that kind of grabs you, then that's it. But none of them did for me. It came out with a 12-inch Go Plus, and I don't think any of them grabbed me either. And I think that the worst part, there was a power struggle in the band at the time. It was between Andy Partridge and the keyboard player Barry Andrews. Barry Andrews was trying to get more influence, more songs. And to me, it's not. He's not the Swindon link. He's a kind of Londoner, and I just don't. His songs belong in the XTC catalogue. I don't like them. Especially the song like My Weapon. I think it's just horrible. It would have more chance of getting on Rattus Norvegicus, but it's not good enough to get on that, you know.
Which is a great album.
Yeah, it's brilliant album, that like. So that's got that out of my system. It's the one album by XTC that I just don't like, and I don't think I ever will. That's as much as I've got to say about it.
So what's your star ranking at, Ian?
1.5. I wouldn't ever recommend anybody listen to this album. I wouldn't, because then they'd be saying, well, what's that crap you listen to? It's like they're crap. And I'd be like, why?
Right, well, mine, Ian, you've stolen all my words there. Because my number 12 is Go-To. I was going to say Rattus there. Is Go-To. I've given it 1.5 stars again. I've just got written a few words. Awful album, awful hypnosis album art, which I cannot stand. Barry Andrews overstaying his welcome. It's a massively rushed album.
Definitely.
The second album in a year, which is a bit crazy really for some bands. Some did it really well, like Stranglers, ironically. The only saving grace is I've written Beat Town as a lost classic, which I really liked, actually. I listened to it again today. I thought, wow, what a great song. And it's like, it stands out on an album that, quite frankly, stinks, you know.
I don't know about you, but the keyboards have done their stuff on the first album, and now it's just like overload. It's like, oh, no, you've kind of, it's not going anywhere now. Yeah,
true. Okay, Ursula, what have you got in it? Number 11.
Right, number 11, I've got the Big Express, which is over there somewhere. The Big Express, to me, it's a very sort of grey, bleak album. Even the cover is that dark sort of black. It's unappealing. It's not really attractive. I mean, it's got some decent songs on it, but it just doesn't, again, it doesn't grab me like some of the other XTC albums. Having said that, there's a few tracks that are really good in it, like Seagulls Screaming. I love that song, and I love the way that sort of Andy sort of uses that sort of screeching noise to sort of urge him on. He wants to kiss that girl, and it's a really sort of a real sort of gripping track. I think it really grabs you when you hear it. This World Over, that's a really nice song. It's quite melancholy, but I love the sound to it and the lyrics. But I think the real genius track, because usually each XTC album's got a work of genius on it, hasn't it? And I think in this case, it's Train Running Low. Kind of sweet now. Train Running Low on Soul Coal. That is the sort of genius track on the album, because I think just the way it's put together, it's just like, you know, it's manic, it's sort of disjointed, it's just a really, really good song. And I love the way they have the train sort of, you know, he's talking about sort of, you know, running down and running out of, you know, energy. And it's the way the train sort of goes at the end is really, you know, the work of genius. It reminds us a bit of Cloud Busting, you know, with Kate Bush at the end. Coming to, and funnily enough, I think they were both sort of written around the same time. They both wrote the songs about the same sort of time of era. So so that's a really good track which saves the album, I think. So I think ranking wise, probably just a little bit over 2.5 out of 5, maybe 2 3/4.
That's fair. That's fair enough. Ursula, we'll create that 2 3/4 star ranking.
I didn't know how to do 3/4.
I do for some of them, yeah. So
that's fair enough. Ian, what have you got in it? Number 11.
Number 11.
Big Express, right?
Big Express. Very similar to what Ursula just mentioned. I love Seagulls Screaming more and more every time I hear it now, and I like the fact it was all down. He ended up getting Andy Partridge getting a Mellotron and started messing out on it, and then he just thought, this sounds like a crappy seaside town, like a bad day on a seaside town, and that's where it all started from. This World Over, I think, is fantastic. I think it's absolutely brilliant. That's a Colin Walden song, right?
I don't know if it is it?
To double check.
Yeah, I think it might be Andy's.
Oh,
I think
Andy
Andy's,
Partridge, it is.
Yeah,
You're right.
That's the one I've written here. It sounds like The Police.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does a little bit. Yeah, now you mention it.
It's I think it's all about the aftermath of a nuclear war. It was during the Cold War. You're right, it is Andy Partridge, because I remember him talking about it, and just explaining to his child that, oh, there used to be this place called London, there used to be trees and all that, and it's bleak. But I think the verses are bleak, but I think the chorus is absolutely fantastic. You know, the chorus kind of picks it up every time. I like I bought myself a Lyrebird because it's all about their ex-manager who absolutely shafted them, but they can't talk about it very much. But yeah, train run. I can't say it very easily myself. Train running. How the hell they managed to sing it? Train running low on soul coal. Yeah. That what a final song. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw the album. I saw it in Virgin, and I never bought it, and I kind of got it, you know, years and years later. But it never really did anything for me. I like it more now. I've played it a lot more than, and I've given it 3 stars.
Good.
Right, good. Okay. Well, my number 11 is Wasp Star. It's came out in 2000. It was the last album. It was supposed to be a double album, wasn't it, with Apple Venus? Yeah. And I'm pleased it's a separate album. It's at this point it's just Andy and Colin. Dave Gregory's sadly gone. The album's got a real divorce feel about it. I've no idea when Andy Partridge separated from his wife at the time, and I've no idea, but I suspect it was probably about this point in time. I mean, there's some great songs on it. Playground, classic XTC pop song. Stupidly Happy is fantastic. Really uplifting. In Another Life, I've written a superb song, has that classic Molden type of Beatles feel. But then there's some average songs on there, like My Brown Guitar. It's a bit, and then Boarded Up. It's like it's got that bluesy feel, but it's not really great. It's, you know, it's all right. I'm the Man Who Murdered Love is really catchy though. That's a really terrific song. There are some real highlights on the album, but then there's stuff that I would never expect to see XTC do, like Wounded Horse. It's like it's the song about being cheated on, but it's a blues song. And I wouldn't expect XTC to do blues, and it doesn't really work for me. I did laugh at the last song, the Wheel in the Maypole, where he's nicked the line from Carry On at Your Convenience, where he uses the line, I've got the time if you've got the motion. I thought that was really funny. So I did laugh at that because I recognised the link. But it's just an all right album. It's not bad. It's some really great songs on it and some very average stuff on it. But I've given it 3 stars because it is good. You know, the very good is outstanding, but it's not up to their usual standard for me. So it gets a good 3 stars overall. So Ursula, what have you got in at number 10?
Number 10 is this one here, White Music. I've quite sort of like me sort of punk music and new wave anyway. So this album's got a sort of punky raw sort of feel to it anyway, and I quite like that sound. I mean, I think there's quite a bit of filler on it, but you'd expect that with the first album. You know, you can see that they're still sort of, you know, coming up with their sound and their ideas. But having said that, there's still got quite a few decent songs on it. I like let's see, I'll read out some. Well, Radio's Emotion's a good one. I like Set Myself on Fire. That Colin Mildon song is quite, I like that one. And even the cover they did, All Along the Watchtower, I think that's a great cover, because a lot of people don't like it because, you know, they're Jimi Hendrix fans or Bob Dylan fans, and they don't think it should be touched. But I think they did a really good, and it sort of stands out. It shows their unique character, because I think that song shows creativity. You know, it shows you know, Andy's frantic singing, and you know, I love Barry's sort of keyboards on there. I thought his keyboards at the end really make the song. So I just thought it was a really
on it as well. Good bass.
Yeah, good bass with Colin. Yeah, the whole song is really outstanding, I think, and it shows their potential. I think that one song sort of paved the way to show what they could become, and what they did go on to become. So I thought that was a great song. So let's see. So what did I give that one? So I'll give that one just over 2.5 out of 5, maybe, because there is a lot of
still 2 3/4 territory then.
All right, yeah, about 2 3/4 then. Okay.
Ian, what have you got at number 10?
Oh, I was wincing at that mark. Right, next one I've got. This is that's a new album cover that's come out, which was the original one he intended. I don't know why it didn't. But this is another one, and I would lump it with same kind of era as the Big Express. I never really got into this one either, but I am now. Much more, or you know, I really like it now. But it took me a long time to get into this one. But there are fantastic songs on it. Love on a Farm Boys, we did that on the last podcast or whatever these are called. Beating of Hearts is like it's very kind of Beatlesy, Sgt. Pepper Mystery Tour kind of with the Indian. I don't know if it's a sitar or what it is that's playing, but it reminds me.
I think it's just a guitar effect that has that sound.
Of vibe on that song.
Yep.
Wonderland, I love that song, which is kind of that is a Colin Mildon song, and that is, to me, it's like a precursor to Skylark, and you know, it could have easily been on that album.
Yeah.
Great Fire, that was one of the hits. That took a while for me to get into, but I really like it now. Human Alchemy I never liked until I started listening to the lyrics, and I thought, bloody hell, that's brilliant. I think it's slave trade kind of, and that's a lot of XTC. You sit down and you've been listening to a song for years, and then you start going through the lyrics and think,
I know,
bloody hell, it's not what I thought.
Yeah, that's the beauty of them, isn't it?
Yeah. This both Andy Partridge and Colin Mildon, there's so much to their songwriting, you know, it's not just simple tunes or anything, or it's all quite deep, even if the subject's quite simple.
Yes.
It's clever as well. And Lady Bird's another one I really like off that.
Super song.
And I never felt, and I still don't feel like funk, pop and roll kind of belong on that album. I don't know, it just seems like a strange ending. You know, it's a good song. It doesn't really sign off the album like what the rest of the album's like, but I give that one 3.5 stars.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Well, my number 10 is also Mama, and it's the last album with Terry Chambers on, isn't it? And they've got, get this here, they've got Pete Phipps from the Glitter Band on drums. You know, so
apparently he was pretty good on it as
yeah,
well.
he's great. He's excellent on it. He's on that and the Big Express. I didn't realise until I looked this up that Mama refers to West Country performers. I had no idea what it meant. Again, I've got some really good songs on it. Beating of Hearts is excellent. Got that weird Asian flavour to it as well. Wonderland is really like a Paul McCartney song. Loving the Farmer's Wages, which went into huge depth, is just one of the great songs. Great Fire is superb. I really think it's a fantastic song. Deliver Us from the Elements is pretty decent. Human Alchemy, I really liked, even it's got an odd reggae flavour to it. And then Lady Bird, as you've written, is superb as well. It's good, but there's something just not quite right. I don't know whether it's the production or not. I've given it 3.5 stars, so it's a very good album, because I was trying to listen and thinking, oh, what are there any really crappy songs on it? And there's not really. They're all good. Some are outstanding, and there's no massive flaw in it. You know, it's not like Beat 2, you know, for me. So I've noticed Ursula hasn't got there yet, and go to, sorry, and then I've beat Nick there, and then so 3.5 stars for me. I think it's a very good album. I really liked it.
I harshly called it on my notes. I harshly called it English Settlement Light. Yeah,
I could see why. I mean, I'll come to a point later on about that. So Ursula, what have you got in at number 9?
Okay, well, number 9, this might be a surprise to you. It's actually Oranges and Lemons. I'll put it. I've put that one at number 9.
Oh my God.
But I'll tell you why. I'll tell you my reasoning. I think it's a good album. It's got some great tracks on it, but it just hasn't got enough great tracks on it.
Right.
So it does have some classics. There's some really wonderful songs on there, but I think it's sort of it has got a little bit of filler on as well, which sort of lets it down slightly. But things like One of the Millions that Colin wrote, I think that's one of his greatest songs. It's a really, really good song that he wrote there. The last few songs at the end where Miniature Sun sort of fades into Chalk Hills and Children, that's a really sort of high point of the album. I think they're 2 really good songs. Miniature Sun, I love the way Andy, he sort of goes from, he's sort of raving about this girl, like the first half of the song, and then he does a complete U-turn and he sort of, you know, he's spitting out all this sort of venom at her. I think it's a really clever song. Like a lot of his songs are clever. Mayor of Simpleton, obviously, great song, great bass line. I mean, I'm surprised that was never a hit, because it's a classic sort of pop.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't believe that wasn't a hit, but like I said, it's a good album, but it just hasn't you know, could have had a few more good tracks. It's got a few good ones, but it could have had a few more to add to them. So for that reason, I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay. I think I'm giving the game away there, Ursula, but never mind. And what have you got in at 9?
9, I've this was probably controversial, a bit like what Ursula just said there, controversial. To me, so I'll kind of half give the game away. I loved Oranges and Lemons when it came. I love that album, and when this came out after, I listened to it and I thought, it's no Oranges and Lemons, you know. It's a good album, but it didn't reach the heights of Oranges and Lemons, in my opinion. It's quite good, actually. We have different viewpoints, otherwise it'd be a bit boring. Like, it's you know, as usual, all the songwriting's really clever, and there's, you know, there's all sorts of little details on all songs where it's things are put in there for a reason. You know, there's kind of a reason for the way things sound, and you know what he puts in, and I mean, typically I was listening to Omnibus, and I've got to really like that song, but right at it's all like jazz type chords, but right at the end there's like backing harmonies, but they're made to sound like a traffic jam, like a bus horn and cars horns beeping, you know, which I thought was really clever. Wrapped in Grey, I held my hands up last time. I hadn't really heard that much, but I've been listening to it a lot since you put us onto that. That's brilliant. And then another thing about that was the bass and the bass drum doing the heartbeat in tandem, like, you know. I thought that was brilliant. And then that leads into The Ugly Underneath, which I'm not actually sure what the song's about, but it's absolutely brilliant. The Ugly Underneath. I don't know whether it's about, you know, what people are hiding inside them, or you might be able to tell us more about that. But My Bird Performs, I think that's a great song, and I think the title's brilliant. Smartest Monkeys, and Holly Up on Poppy, I really like that, and Rook. That's quite melancholy kind of song. That's about I don't quite know what the mythos is, but the Rook's supposed to visit when you're just about to die or something like that. But yeah, I know that some people really rate this album. It's just not. I'll like it, you know. I really like it, but it's not one of my favorites.
How many stars?
Lastly, I really like Bungalow, though. When I first heard it, I wasn't too keen on it, but now it's like another bleak seaside kind of. There's a sinister kind of tone underneath it, and I don't know whether it's all about saving up for this bungalow at the seaside and at the expense of actually living your life, or maybe something like that. I'm not really sure, but yeah, my score for that was 3.5 stars.
Yeah, well, sing from the same hymn sheet here at the minute, because that's also my number 9. I've got it. I think the whole album is quite, and I've written here 3.5 stars as well. I've written McCartney-esque. Great opening, Peter Pumpkinhead, just fantastic, isn't it? You know, I love My Bird Performs. I think it's great with a really weird structure in terms of the chords, but it just works. The Smartest Monkeys is just superb political satire. It's dark, it's funny, obviously ironic. Rook, beautiful and sparse, I've written. Then She Appeared, I think is a fantastic and a classic XTC song.
Chorus is brilliant on that.
Yeah, it's a super song. I've written War Dance, could have been on English Settlement. It's got that sort of feel to it. You know my thoughts on All Wrapped in Grey. I think it's one of the best songs ever written. It could easily have been on Revolver or Pet Sounds. It's like a mishmash of both. I've written here, the album is arguably a little too long. And it's like many double albums. If it had been a single album, it would have been an absolute belter for me. It would have been like a 5-star album if they chopped it down a bit. There's just a little bit too much filler. So it's 3.5 stars. I've listened to quite a bit recently, actually, and started getting more and more into it. I've got friends who rank this as their top album, but I don't see it. It's very good.
Well, That's a good thing about XTC though. Is somebody
Yeah.
it can be somebody's favorite. You can't quite see it, but
Yeah.
you know, you still rate it.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. So Ursula, what have you got in at number 8?
Right, well, here it is. This is the one.
I
Go to.
was getting worried.
Well, actually, that's why I've put it at number 8. Actually, because I think it gets a lot of bad press.
Nice,
I think
nice.
it's usually at the bottom of people's lists, and I've heard it say it's like a cross between a Madness and a Sparks album. Which I mean, I like Madness and I like Sparks, so that's not a bad thing. But I just think. You what? Sorry.
2 great bands, yeah.
It is. That's right. Yeah. But I was going to say, I just think it flows really well from like the first track, Mechanic Dancing. I think it's really upbeat and sort of, you know, gets you into the album. And Battery Brides, I love the start of that song, how it sort of gets faster and faster. I mean, that was quite unique at the time, I think. And Crowded Room, that's a good one as well. But the reason I've put it 8 and not sort of lower down, as you probably thought I would do, is because it's got like one of my favorite ever XTC songs, and that's Beat Town. And like you were saying before, I just love the sort of the last 2 minutes of that song, where it just gets really fast, and you can tell they're all playing their hearts out, you know, like Colin's bass and Andy's guitar and Barry on his keyboards and Terry on the drum. They're just playing as fast as they can. It's just a great ending to a song, and I would have loved to have seen them do this live. I just think that they would have collapsed with exhaustion. I just don't know how they keep that up for 2 minutes flat. So that's one of me like favorite XTC songs, so that's why I put it at number 8 and not sort of lower down. But I do think it's a fair enough album. I think, you know, there obviously is a bit of filler on it, you know, but there are a few little good tracks on it there as well. So I'll give that one 3.5 out of 5.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm laughing at you. You would have loved to see them do it. I would have loved to see them do anything live.
I know, yes, I know. I think I was about 12 when they split up, so so I never got to see them at all. So,
right, Ian, what have you got in at number 8? Are we on 8?
Nope. I don't know what we are, mate. One. Oh, it doesn't matter. Next one is I've got Wasp Star, which was their final album.
Yeah.
And as you say, there was only 2 of them left by, and it was mainly Andy's project. I find it quite like an uplifting album. You didn't find it that like uplifting at all, did you?
No.
I agree. I'm pleased they're separate albums. You know, I don't think that they kind of belong together. In my notes here, I've said it's probably an underrated album, which I feel it probably is. You hate Boarded Up. I love it. I absolutely love Boarded. It's one of my favorite songs on there.
Oh, really?
It paints such a, you know, like a picture of like, I don't know, like Thatcher's Britain sort of thing, and bands not playing there. It's their version of Ghost Town, you know, but I really love that song. Very sparse, good use of space in it. You know, the probably a bit like the Specials Ghost Town, you know, plenty of space there. Wounded Horse, I find that quite a funny song, like, you know, about cheating. My Brown Guitar, it's very Paul McCartney-esque to me, which, you know, there's so many of his songs that you know, it's so clever the way you can just nail another one and it sounds like a Paul McCartney song or a Beach Boys song or what, you know, what have you. Yeah, The Man Who Murdered Love, that's brilliant. And I just like the fact that he's holding his hands up and say, yeah, I'm the man who murdered love. I've done you all a favour, saving you all from pain. And the whole song, I think it's about him taking credit for that. We're All Light. That's I think that's one of his. He said it was his most uplifting song. I think that I just like, again, he'll slip something in the lyrics like about a zillion years ago, some star sneezed. Now they're paging you in reception. It's there's the whole history of time, but done in like a humorous way, you know. The Church of Women, I like his wordplay on that. Like there's one line in that where like us men, and then he follows it, but they are nothing like us men. And then he says it again. The next verse is like us men, will they ever like us men?
So carry on, like.
Yeah, it is. And then at the Wheel and the Maypole, I absolutely love. I get and I
that's a really good song, actually. That's a really good song out there.
And I think that's back to kind of classic XTC, rural village feel, talk, you know, maypoles and all that. And it's really catchy. I mean, the fact that he can just make maypole, the maypole, and that sounds fantastic when he changes the like the chorus, and it's really uplifting. And I started thinking, well, I wasn't really bothered about that album, but I think it's quite a good way to sign off. You know, that particular song, I think it's quite uplifting. I used to think, oh yeah, The Last Balloon would be the best one, but that's quite the downer. So I'm kind of I'm all for the Wheel and the Maypole. Right.
Okay, that's interesting.
I give that 4 stars.
Right. Okay. Well, my next album, mine at number 8, and this will surprise you, Ian, is White Music. So, I mean, I think it's a great album. It's a 4-star album. Radio's in Motion, just tremendous. The whole album is actually produced by John Leckie as well, who produced Supergrass. And it's interesting because I think Radio's in Motion sounds like a Supergrass song, like the early stuff.
Yeah, it does.
So you can see that the production sound,
Right.
Great song, just great. I love that sort of power pop punk sort of thing. I mean, This Is Pop, Statue of Liberty, just fantastic, catchy as hell songs, really well constructed. I've written here, like Ursula, All Along the Watchtower is brilliant, but bonkers I've written. I Set Myself on Fire, I love it. Neon Shuffle is the highlight of the album for me. It's hectic, manic, and we mentioned on the show, on the single show, or the song show, sorry, I really love that elongated stop, which just seems to get longer and longer when they played it live. It's really fun. It's a really catchy album. It just sums up a period of time, and as I've said previously, they start off very much like almost like a British Talking Heads with that angular sort of guitar sound that would be popularized by loads of bands later on, all the sort of British bands later on, like the likes of Franz Ferdinand and all them, with that sort of angular jaunty guitar sound. It's super. I mean, Science Friction should have been on the album. I think that's they missed a trick there a little bit. But it's
She's
a fun.
So Square, that should have been
Yes,
on too.
yes.
Sorry, which song?
She's So Square. That's
Oh
a great...
yeah.
It's just dead catchy, really fast, really catchy. It's one of them Saturday nights, if you're going out albums, put it on beforehand. It's just really uplifting. You can't not go out thinking, oh, like buzzing because it's such an exciting album. And it's a 4-star album for me. It's an excellent album, a great opening debut album. I think it's terrific. So that's my number 8. What have we got at number 7, Ursula?
Right, well, the next 4 albums, actually, my rankings were very, very similar, so it was very hard to do the next 4, and they're all very different albums, but it's just the rankings sort of came out the same. But I managed to put this one at number 7. So this is Mama the old sleeve. So Mama, I've put at number 7. I think it's a good album because every song, no song is really outstanding apart from maybe 1 or 2, but every song is listenable too. It's an enjoyable album to listen from start to finish. So it's a decent album. There's a few sort of gems on there, like Love on a Farm, Boy's Wages. I think everyone loves that. It's such a sweet, cute song. And also, like, my grandparents on my mum's side, they grew up on a farm, so you can like relate to it. But it's just a very sweet, sort of sweet song. You know, you just feel like going, oh, you know, like when it finishes, you know. So it's that's a lovely song. Also, I'm just trying to think, In Love and Memory of a Name, I like that one. I can't put my finger on why I like that one, but it's a really good Collins song, and I there's something about it, and I think it's one of the best on Mama. I love Great Fire. When I first heard Great Fire, I thought it was going to be about Great Fire of London or something, but it's like Ian was saying, it's always something totally different that you expect. And he's talking about, you know, he's like, you know, he's pouring out his heart for this, you know, his fiery sort of feelings for this girl that he's after. So that's a real good song. But I think the best song on the album is Me and the Wind. I just think that's a really well put together song. I love the way that they have that sort of howling wind noise in the background, and it's about him trying to sort of get rid of, you know, someone who's caused him a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, and he's sort of celebrating. He's really good at sort of, Andy's really good at, you know, sort of making it, sort of visualizing, making you sort of see what's sort of happening in the song. He's very good at sort of creating images, you know, and I think Me in the Wind does a good job of that. So yeah, Mama, like I say, I don't think there's a bad song on it, really. I like all of them, and I'll give that about 3.9 out of 5. Sorry, I'm not going by your scoring again. It's not quite a 4, but just under a 4, I'll give it. So
4 minus. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Ian, what have you got in next?
Yeah.
Well, you might be surprised. I've got White Music.
Right.
And you know, we pretty much covered the album. I've just, you know, wrote some amazing catchy pop songs, simple yet weird and funny. Barry Andrews' keyboards work an absolute treat on this album. Yeah. Unlike Go 2, which I think they were, he's, you know, he'd had his time and it was going nowhere. I love the keyboards on this whole album, like, you know, it's just so zany and quirky, and you can't listen to it without like smiling or laughing. Short and snappy, and you know, there's one, Do What You Do, 1 minute 16.
Is that the Dickies?
And it's kind of like, I listen to that album in the same frame of mind as if I listened to a Buzzcocks album, you know. It's just really funny and great to listen to. Crosswires, absolutely brilliant. Colin Walden. I think in the early days he was trying to kind of mimic Andy Partridge's way of singing and way of writing. But then he found his own way. But early on, he was very, very similar to Andy Partridge. But and I love the fact that for years and years I just couldn't work out what he was actually singing. You know, when you get everything bye bye. Like, what the hell's that? And I went, oh, when you get Crosswires, everything is buzz, everything is beep beep. Simple. But it wasn't until I got the lyrics that I thought, oh, that's what he's singing. Like, it was just crazy. Radio's in Motion, brilliant opener. This Is Pop. That was all based on a Hard Day's Night chord. You know.
Yeah, the famous chord. Yeah.
Yeah. And Statue of Liberty. I love this. The song's absolutely brilliant, but even better than the song is, and this is typical Andy Partridge, he was sitting in a house with his girlfriend and she's ironing away and she's struggling to reach the the top of the shirt. So she pulls the cord and holds the iron up high like that. And he's like looking at her thinking, oh, it's just like the Statue of Liberty. There's a song in that. And that's where he got that from. And Neon Shuffle we've covered that, so I'll not talk anymore, but it's absolutely brilliant. I love Neon Shuffle.
How many stars did you say? 4
stars.
Right, cool. Well, my next album, at number 7, is Drums and Wires. It's a terrific album. It's an album that's really grown on us over the last few months. I mean, Barry Andrews is gone. Dave Gregory's in. Steve Lillywhite and Hugh Padgham are now in on production, so that's the production considerably goes up, in my opinion. This is really the album that for me is like the epitome of post-punk in terms of that angular guitar sound. I think some of the bands obviously did it as well, like Wire. I think Adam and the Ants' first album, Dirt Wears White Socks, does it as well. That would sort of pave the way for many of those type of bands. I mean, obviously Nigel, we all know it's a great song, really, really catchy. I love Helicopter because it's just bonkers. The song that really does it for me on the album is Roads Girdle the World. It's just superb. Big chorus, odd, splendid. I've written here, I love That Is the Way. Super. Outside World, great, fast, frantic, fun. Scissor Man, dead catchy. Complicated Game, fab. Really great ending. The Americans have got Life Begins at the Hop, which would have been nice to have had on there as well, just to give it a little bit more of a pop sensibility. Yeah. But it's a fantastic album. It really is, and it's grown more and more the more I listen to it. So at the minute, it's 4 stars. But you might ask me in 2 months' time, it might go up to 4.5, even 5 stars. It's a fabulous album, really, really big. It's bizarre because it wasn't high on my list.
Last week's number 4.
Asked me 2 months ago, this would have been like down at 11 or something. So it's it's rising rapidly. So how about you? What have we got next then, Ursula?
Well, my number 6 is your number 7, so yeah. I've got Drums and Wires as well. And I think it's a good album. It's probably one of the first ones that I heard from XTC. But it's number 6 because it's got 2 of my favourite sort of XTC songs. One is like Making Plans for Nigel, because that was the one I first got into. I think that song sounds as fresh now as it did back in, like the late 70s. I don't think it'll ever get old, that song. Great songwriting by Colin there. And I also like a few others. It's got like Roads Good. I kind of say it now. What is it? Roads Girdle the Glow. I can't say. Yeah. Well, that one anyway. That one I like. That one. Millions is good. Reel to Reel. I love the little twinny guitar solo in the middle of that. I don't know if it's Andy or if it's Dave Gregory doing that, but I love that little guitar solo. But the best song, probably the best XTC song, I think, is on that album, and that's Complicated Game. And I think it's just a fantastic song. If it's just indescribable. I've never heard anything like it. And I remember the first time I listened to it, I had to like play it again because the end bit where he's sort of doing the complicated bit. I was sort of listening. I was thinking, my speaker's all right, and my ears all right, and I had to listen it like 2 or 3 times. And the more I listened to it, I realised, my God, it's like a work of genius because there's never been a song like it, and it's just so good. It's sort of indescribable. So that I think for that song alone, it deserves to be at number 6. So that one I give I give it the same rating as Mama, because like I said, they were very similar, so 4- for that one as well. So
interesting. Ian?
this is going to get very repetitive. I've got drums and wires. I may as well tell you now, I've got 4 stars for that. Yeah, this is the 3rd album, and it's a new lineup. You know, Barry Andrews left, and it was the right move. Dave Gregory, what a brilliant guitarist he is. Not only is he a brilliant guitarist, but he knows when to play, how to complement Andy Partridge's guitar. And he kind of hit the ground running with the band. I think at times people get confused as to which, myself included, who's playing which guitar bit, you know, because they can sound very similar. But I think he always tried to play a guitar that was in contrast to whatever Andy was playing, so that the sound was slightly different, you know. To me, this is the bass sound of, I don't mean like BASS, I mean BASE, the bass of XTC. This is kind of where everything kicks off from this album. Like, you know, to me, it's like you hear this album in so many other bands' repertoires to this day. You can hear loads of this album in other people's music. You know, it's really influential in amongst musicians. I don't know how, you know, how much influence XTC has over the general public. Probably still not really well known, you know. No. But I think musicians, I think that's where their influence on other bands is it's, you can hear it all the time. And to me, this is the kind of where they took off from. Terry Chambers, again, he's a superb drummer, and superb drumming and timing, and the 4 of them together seem to be synchronized, you know, on some of the choppy stuff. That it's so well blended, and they complement each other. There's not one player that's kind of doing their own thing and not quite fitting in with the other. That they're so perfectly synchronized. Mm-hmm. And as you say, that the production took a step up with this album. Who was the producer? Pageant.
Pageant and Steve Lillywhite.
Steve Lillywhite, yeah. And they were big on drum sounds. And I was listening to an interview on that, was to do with the studio in Soho that they used to play, and the drumming. They had this room that normally it's all carpeted and muffled and that, but for the drums,
it's the brick sound room, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. And there's a massive drum sound on that, which they try to carry on, but that was dependent on Terry Chambers playing drums rather than a lot of cymbals, you know, because it would just got lost in the.
That's the room where they got the Phil Collins sound for the drums.
In the Air Tonight.
Yeah, that was the room, and it's obviously on the great Peter Gabriel album, the 3rd one.
Yes, yeah. Dave Gregory was on that too.
Yes, XTC were on it. There's a couple of them on, and Partridge is on it as well. Oh. And Weller's on it. But yeah, my number 6 is the album that's grown on me the most, by quite a bit, is The Big Express. It's the album I've been playing for the last few weeks. Beforehand I thought, nah, it's just got a weird sound, but it's the album that I've started listening to more and more, and I really, really like it. It's got an industrial sound, and it's based on, as he said, it was based on trains, wasn't it? The train sound in Swindon, which is a weird thing to do, but it works. So Terry Chambers is gone. Pete Phipps is from the Glitter Band, is still drumming. Wake Up, what a great opener. All You Pretty Girls and Screaming, Seagulls Screaming, Kiss Her, Kiss Her. I've just written terrific songs, and I've written that the drums has almost got like it sounds a bit like Budgie out of Susie and the Banshees as well. It's got that great drum sound. I've written This World Over, which you mentioned earlier on. I've written it sounds like the Police. And if you think about it, this was done in 1984. The Police were the biggest band in the world at the time. So it's definitely got that.
They were supporting them on the tour.
Yeah,
like
That's
earlier.
right, they did, yeah. Good friends. I've said good friends, yeah. They had a serious message about world destruction. I've written the everyday story of small town. I've just written Kinks-esque, because Partridge is a massive Kinks fan, and you can tell because, I mean, in many respects, XTC are the late 70s, 80s, 90s Kinks, if you like. Just brilliant. I bought myself a Lyrebird. It's quirky and great. The one I really love is You're the Wish You or I Had, which is just the weirdest
That's hard
title.
to see.
It moves and sounds like a train moving. It's really, really clever when you listen back to it. It actually sounds like a train slowing down, speeding up. Really clever, but at the same time, it's catchy. I thought, wow, that's really, really clever. There are other great songs on it. The other one that stands out to me is Rain of Blows. Again, another song that they do, a bit like No Thugs in Our House, which is a song about fascism and its followers. So I think it's a really super album, and it's growing more and more on us the more I listen to it. I'd like to see it remixed, but apparently they've got to pay to get find the tapes, and they haven't, I believe, is the story at the minute. They probably will do. So it's a 4.25, dare I say it, stars.
No, you can't say that.
Right,
no,
well, I won't then.
That was in the contract.
So that's, yeah, that was my number 6. Ursula, what have you got number 5?
Right, number 5, I've got English Settlement.
Right.
And the reason it's like number 5 and not higher, I think it suffers being like a double album. I think because when it came out originally, it was a double album, I think, and well, it was in the UK. And the first sort of disc is great. I think all the songs on the first disc, like Runaways, Ball and Chains, Senses Working Overtime, Yacht Dance, Jason, all of those on the first disc are really, really good songs. But then I think it kind of meanders off a bit for the second album. So if they'd kind of cherry picked sort of like the 10 best songs or 10 or 12 best songs and just made it one album, I think it would have been like the perfect XTC album. But it is good, there's a lot of the songs are sort of iconic songs on it. Obviously it's got Senses Working Overtime, which is, I think, everyone's favorite sort of, well, most people's favorite XTC single, isn't it? But I think it's just a good solid album. But like I say, had it been a single album rather than a double, I think it would definitely have been in my top sort of 2 or 3 then, I think, if that had been the case. But because there's a bit of filler on it, as well as all the decent tracks, I've put it at number 5. And again, just under 4 out of 5 I give that one.
Right.
So that's cool.
Ian, what have you got next then?
Right, next I've gone for right, this will spell out what I've gone for, hopefully. Did you hear that?
No.
All right.
No.
All right. It's a hammer smashing an anvil.
Right. Yes, I heard something.
Yeah, sorry about that. So it's the Black Sea, and this is one of their many finest albums. I think, there definitely isn't a bad song on this whole album. They've developed the kind of jagged, angular guitars even further, and the recording and the mix is probably better than Drums and Wires. As I say, they're all very strong songs, and they're still, at this point, they're still playing songs that they would have to be able to play live. So they haven't kind of developed the sound stage as much as they would do on later albums, a bit like the Beatles, you know, when they became a studio band. There's not one weak track on this album. You know, you start off with Respectable Street, Generals and Majors, Living Through Another Cuba, Love at First Sight. They're all brilliant songs. I love the fact on Love at First Sight, there's a guitar solo that Andy does, and it's just one chord. It's just, he just plays one chord and just gets faster all the time. No Language in Our Lungs. It's kind of typical Andy Partridge, writing in a way that nobody else would, you know, about their relationship.
Very clever production on it though as well, isn't it? With the big chorus and all the rest of it, and the way they've brought all the echoes together. Very clever.
Exactly. I spoke a lot about Travels in Nylon last time. What I forgot to mention on that was they were restricted to the sound effects that they had in the studio. So they wanted the song, because it was so bleak and dystopian. They wanted to finish off with like a rain shower, but all they had was a shower head in the bathroom. So they put the shower head on the shower curtain and recorded that. It was the nearest thing up. But it just sounds like the longest piss in history. Like, but then Andy Partridge said that's the best thing it could be, because it was like everybody, it was like the establishment pissing on you. You were just, you've been hard, and that's what was thinking of you.
Even that's clever with XTC, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Do that and recapture that.
Subliminal.
I was just playing it again today, and it's just a superbly written album. It goes together so well. The order of the songs and everything, you know.
Yeah. What? How many stars, Ian?
I'm giving it 4.5.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, my number 5 is, maybe it's controversially, is Skylarking, which is a great album. It's one of those weird ones, isn't it? Because there's much debate about the corrected polarity thing. Todd Rundgren describes it as bullshit, and that was his exact phrase. And Andy Partridge said there's and Colin Molden, but to be fair, both of them said there's a definite dropout, and the highs and lows are not quite right. And I think if you're a musician, you've been in the studio and you get the wires the wrong way around, you can tell there's a subtle difference, and there is. So they've corrected it. They've put that rude album cover on the front, which is mad, but there you have it. The whole album has got a 60s vibe to it. I think we mentioned earlier on about the Dukes of Stratosphere.
Yeah,
I think that break really helped the band. I think it helped them go into a different direction after the Big Express and that Mama. It got them to go off quite a different tangent. And the whole album's got a 60s feel to it. I mean, you know, the opening songs are great, you know, like Grass and all the rest of it. They're all superb, and I've written other things that stand out here. That's really super girl. It's the first song on the album. It's about the 4th song, but it's the first one that could have been on other XTC albums, because I think the first 3 are so different to anything that they've done. And you know, like the Meeting Place, the really Beatlesy, really sort of. I've written influences here. I've written some of the influences, such as the Zombies, which people forget about, you know, and the Kinks and Small Faces. All those influences are clearly on this album for me. I've written Ballad for a Rainy Day. It's got a Beatles feel. Could have been on the White Album. It's that good. 1,000 Umbrellas, about getting dumped in the rain. It's just odd, but brill. Season Cycle, sounds like the Beach Boys, but super. Earn Enough for Us is excellent. And that really does sound like the Small Faces. It's angry, yet power pop, superb. Big Day, about getting married. Lovely. Just, you know, like getting married. Mermaid Smiled, very good. Man Who Sailed Around His Soul is based on the song Nature Boy, the beautiful Nat King Cole song. And it's also terrific. It's really different direction. We've mentioned Dear God, and we've included it because it should have been on anyway. Is one of the best songs that they've done. You know, that sort of agnostic viewpoint about God is magic. Really great song, very controversial, but he didn't care, and I'm pleased he didn't. Dying, great. Sacrifice, Bonfire. It's a super album. It's 4.5, 4 3/4, something like that. It's a terrific album. 4.5 stars I've written down. It's very close to being absolutely perfect for me. It's a fabulous album. So they're at that level now. They're just outstanding. Ursula, what have you got next?
Right, well, my number 4 is Non-Such over there. I like, actually, if it was album covers alone, I think Non-Such is my favourite sleeve. I love the sleeve and the pictures on the back that depict the little characters and all the songs. But I think much like English Settlement, I think it suffers from being a double album. I think if they could have handpicked sort of 10 or 12 like of the best tracks and put it on one album, it would be like a perfect XTC album, because it's got some really great songs on it. Rook is like a really nice song. It's very melancholic, but it's a great song. I'm not quite sure what it's about, but I think Ian could be right about the what were you saying about the rook flies when you're gonna I've heard that before somewhere, I think. So I think that could be sort of the meaning of the song. The Smartest Monkeys, I think that's a great song by Colin, like great lyrics. That Wave is a really sort of, I just love the way that's put together, that song, and the guitar solo in the middle, that really, you know, it really sort of lifts the song up. I think it's a great collection of songs. And I think there was a song that Colin wrote and it didn't get on the album. Where Did the Ordinary People Go? I don't know if you've heard of that, but I think that should have been included. It was written at about the same time and it wasn't included on the album, but I think that could have been put on instead of something like Omnibus or something, that one of the lesser tracks that I wasn't too keen on. But overall, it's a great album, and I love like the look of it as well, and the little pictures on the sleeves. I think it's a great album, but I do think it suffers slightly from being a double album. I think if it had stayed just as, you know, if they picked 10 or 12 good tracks and put it as one album, it would have been like the perfect XTC album. So again, like I say, they're all about, these ones that I'm doing at the moment, they're all about the same score. So 4-, just under 4 out of 5 I give for Non-Such.
Right, okay, interesting. Ian, what's your next one then? Ursula's title on marks, mind you, but there you have it. Go
on. Yeah, my next one is Oranges and Lemons, which that was the one that kind of got me really back into XTC. And this, it's one of their most commercial sounding albums, I think. And how it didn't, you're not so keen on this album, Ursula, but I
do like it. I just don't think there's enough good songs on there. But I do like it.
Yeah, I love almost every song on this album, and I've got no problem with the length of it. So it's horses for courses, I think. I don't think it's the best mixed album. Parts of it are, but at times it gets there's a bit too much too much of everything. It becomes like a bit of a wall of sound at times. But
that was very much the case with the late 80s, though, wasn't it? It was like throw everything on, like Prince was another one who did it, throw everything onto an album, and it was like loads of layers.
Yeah. But it's got such a mix of different styles on it. You know, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't flow like some of the other albums. It's probably more of a kind of like, you know, the Beatles' White Album, where it's just a selection of different styles but I think, you know, some of the highlights are Garden of Earthly Delights, great opener. Again, quite Beatles, you know. Mayor of Simpleton, I can't praise that enough. You know, I think it's just one of the best pop songs ever. King for a Day, Here Comes President Kill Again, with the Stark drumming on that, the intro. I think that's great. I think that was based on, again, that book that Travels in Nylon, you know, that he was reading.
Yeah, it's an Alan Sillitoe story.
That's right, aye.
So Alan Sillitoe is the guy who wrote, what was it, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning?
Yeah,
and the Rat Man's Daughter as well, which is a great story. Great writer, Sillitoe, or he was.
Aye. But that was President Nil, I think.
Yes, it was.
The Lovin', I think, is a fantastic song. I absolutely love The Lovin'. Poor Skeleton Steps Out, Scarecrow People, Cynical Days. I love it's a kind of it's got a very kind of it's a kind of downy song, but I think it's great. You know, really good style. That's Colin Morgan, isn't it? You know. Again, it's like there's a contrast between verse and chorus on that one. One of the funniest songs is Pink Thing. I think the humor on that one's brilliant. You know, it's really funny, and I could imagine people getting offended at that one, but I think it's just tongue in cheek. You know, it's just really funny song. Yeah, going back to what Ursula was saying, when Miniature Sun fades into Chalk Hills and Children, I just think that's a fantastic ending to a fantastic album. I love it.
Yeah, Chalk Hills and Children's one of the best endings of any album. I just think it's beautiful. It just swishes. I think it's the phrase I'm going to use. It just sort of, it's almost like water lapping over you. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. So those two songs really make the album.
Yeah, magic. How many stars have you given it, Ian?
I give that 4.5.
Yeah, that's fair enough. My number 4 is Apple Venus, the 1999 album. And as I said earlier on, I'm so pleased it's not a double album, because it would have really spoiled it, because they're so different in terms of feel between this and Wasp Star. They are really separate albums. And Dave Gregory left the band because of this album. He didn't like the sound of it. He described it as XTC light type of thing, you know. So, and I think in hindsight, he's wrong. It's a really class album, an absolute classic album. I've written a really strong opener with River of Orchids, great rhythm, beautiful song, really catchy. I'd Like That is absolutely outstanding. I mean, the whole album's got an acoustic sort of feel to it. And I'd Like That is really just outstanding. Easter Theatre is superb. It's about fertility. It's got fertility type lyrics. It's about paganism. I mean, the lyrics are bonkers, but great again, and very good. Super song. Absolutely superb song.
Brilliant songwriting, like, isn't it?
Yeah, just brilliant. Knight in Shining Karma, which is a funny title, real pun. But again, could have been on Pet Sounds I've written. Frivolous Tonight is really catchy. And it reminds me of those sort of 70s, early 70s catchy songs, like, you know, like the theme of the Likely Lads or something. It's got that sort of real sort of sing-along feel. Green Man, good, really good, catchy song. Your Dictionary featured in my top 10 favorite XTC songs in terms of bitterness and anger. Fruit Note, and a really catchy Molden song. And then the last, you know, the last three just outstanding. With the balloon, I'll let you talk more about the last three when you get down to it. But it's a 4 3/4 stars album. If I'm allowed to give it 4.5 at the minute. It's a 4.5, and it's a 4 3/4. It's that close to being 5 stars. It maybe is a 5-star album. It's just outstanding. What an album! Really well produced as well. You could easily see them just doing this in small theatres, even as a band now. It would work superbly live. And if they're ever watching the show, please reform and do some more bloody albums. But there you have it. Ursula, what have you got in the next thing?
Well, my top three, at some point, they've all been my favourite album. They've all been number one. So so I had to sort of re-listen again just to see what the top three would be for this week. But they've all been my favourite album at some point. But my number three is your number four. So mine is Apple Venus. And for much the same reasons as you were saying, it's a great album from start to finish. It's quite mellow, so I think you've got to be in a certain mood to like listen to it. But just from, you know, all the way through all the songs, there's something special about it. I mean, I love the start of River of Orchids with that sort of like dropping water droplet sound. It's really nice. And Nights in Shining Karma is a beautiful song. I think he said he was a Judy Sill fan and he sort of based it around her or something. I don't know, but it's a beautiful, beautiful song. Your Dictionary, I think, is a great hard-hitting song. It sort of sticks out like a sore thumb on the album because all the others are quite sort of mellow, but that is a real hard-hitting song. But again, genius lyrics. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever thought of writing a song the way that he's sort of wrote that song about divorce, but it's just so clever. You know, you listen to it and you think, you know, who could come up with an idea like that? Only Andy Partridge, really. You know, it's a genius song, that one. And like you're saying about the last three make the album. The sort of I Can't Own Her is a real sort of melancholy song, but it's very pretty at the same time. And then Harvest Festival is a nice sort of one in between. And then The Last Balloon, I was on Mark Fisher's podcast talking about this song once, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful song. Just the way it flows, it's very dreamy about sort of like people getting rid of their ills and their flaws and sort of escaping. And in the bit at the very end where he sings and his voice sort of turns into the trumpet at the end, it's just
really, it's genius.
It is. I mean,
you can't tell the join. You can't tell the join.
Yes, you can't. Yeah, it's so clever. I mean, that's the thing about XTC. I don't think people realize, you know, people that only know like, you know, one or two songs by them, they just don't realize that the genius behind all the music, you know, it's just so intriguing, really. But Apple Venus is my number three. But like I said, it has been my number one, but this week it's my number three. And I think I gave it 4.5 out of 5. So that's my score. Oh, can I say as well? I was going to say as well, there's one thing as well about Apple Venus. There was a song that Andy wrote called My Land is Burning. Have you ever heard of it? It's on his Fuzzy Warbles CD. Yeah. It's a really good song if you haven't heard it. And apparently he wrote it at the same time as Apple Venus and forgot all about it when they came to record the album. And it's an excellent song. And if that had been put on that album, it would have made it like a perfect album. So I hope one day if they re-release it or remaster it, I hope they stick that on the end, because if you haven't heard it, it's a really, really good song. So
that's bonkers, that like.
So,
Ian, yeah, that's great. That's really funny. That. Ian, what have you got next then?
Next, I've got Skylarking, which used to be me. That was all of these albums. They're kind of, you know, what's number one week will be, you know, number 3, and then something else will take its place. But because you said you used to, this was your number 1 album.
It was my number 1 for ages. It's a great album. I'm not saying it's not. You know, it is a great album. Yeah, I just over time just switched a little bit.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. You kind of, you start looking into. I think this is quite good, because you do start, right, I better start really listening to the albums that I don't listen to that often, and you find that some of them are kind of creeping up when you didn't think they would.
Yeah,
like,
and I was saying that about the Big Express. If you'd asked me 2 months ago, the Big Express would have jumped that high. I'd have just laughed at you. But there you have it. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, as you were saying, this one was produced by Todd Rundgren, who had been listening, following them, and he did like XTC, and he could see a lot of problems with their production on the last couple of albums that he didn't think was right. So he tried to put it, and he did a fantastic job. I think it you know, stringing all, even though him and Andy Partridge didn't get on, they produced this, they managed to produce this masterpiece, really. It's very atmospheric all the way through, you know, which is typically XTC, you know, that can carry the feel on for the whole album. Again, it's kind of like a rural, pastoral feel to it, and when you hear the songs, you've got an image in your mind for all of these different songs, haven't you? You know, and the track order, I think, is really well. You know, he's placed all the songs just where you'd want them. The only thing was when they had to get rid of one song because they couldn't cram them all on the album. And I think, you know, Andy Partridge reluctantly got rid of Dear God because they said, oh, well, the Americans are not like this. And he didn't want to get rid of one of Colin's songs, so he took the hit and said, all right, well, yeah. But I think he says now he should have fought harder for it. Mm-hmm. But weirdly enough, the re-release of the album, it's come out with that on. It is crammed, and probably the sound quality will suffer because of that. And like the run out groove's only about, like, you know, there's barely any run out groove. It's like the last track finishes and it's on the paper.
I don't know why they didn't make it like a double then, if that were the case.
Well, they did do a double, I think, like a special edition recently, but that's all sold out. That was at like 45 RPM one, you know, which I wish I had, like. But yeah, you know, Colin Malden, I think, and Andy Partridge are kind of on an equal footing on this album. You know, whoever songs that they're as good as each other, and they blend in well. Summer's Cauldron starts off with all the summer, you know, the crickets or the grasshoppers and the birds and that kind of that the keyboard kind of like just wandering noise in the background. I think it's superb. But like the first 3 songs all kind of blend into each other, really cleverly done. And like the wordplay on like grass shocked me to the things we used to do on grass. It's really well, you know, like it's got 2 meanings. And Earn Enough for Us, it's back to Love on a Farm Boy's Wages, and that's typically like XTC never made any bloody money. Another Satellite, I love that song, and when you sit down and read the lyrics, it's so clever. It's like every line's got a a reference to space, or you know, the moon, or gravity, or you go through it. It's so cleverly done, because a lot of it's quite subtly done. You think, oh, that's really clever. It's fantastic songwriting, but once again, an absolutely brilliant tune. It's one of his best tunes. You know, it's absolutely brilliant. And then a couple of jazz sounding songs with the kind of back-to-back Mermaid Smiles and The Man Who Sails Around Your Soul, which you mentioned earlier on. And you know, Andy Partridge, you'll never play straight chords. It's always got to be, there'll be an edge to it, or a jazz feel to it. He doesn't like the straightforward kind of chord progression that you normally get in normal pop songs, you know. And this album's full of it. Dear God, we've already discussed that in the last one. And I love the last couple of songs, like I think they're both Colin Morton songs on the end, Dying and Sacrificial Bonfire. I just think it's superb. I've just written XTC doesn't get much better than this. You might argue it gets slightly better, but not much better. You know.
How many stars have you given it in the end? 5, right? Okay. Well, that's interesting, because I'm into 5-star territory now. I'm not going to repeat too much, because we've heard quite a lot about some of the same albums now anyway. So I've got number 3 for me. I've got Oranges and Lemons, 5 stars, multi-layered and dense, like you mentioned. Amazing songs, clear influences, you know, Beatles, Beach Boys, Birds, Zombies, whatever, Kinks. Stuff you've already mentioned, Mary Simpleton, King for a Day, they're catchy songs. President
Album
Killigan.
cover's brilliant.
Yeah, they're very sort of Beatlesy cover, isn't it?
Like Yellow Submarine, isn't it?
Yes, it's based on that sort of thing. President Killigan, you've mentioned the story, and the Lovin' is real anthemic. Apparently, it wanted an anthemic song like All the Young Dudes, so that's what they came up with. Poor Skeleton Steps Out, weird rhythms. They've got that Indian tabla drum beat on it, which I really like. Merely a Man, it's like almost like a rock song for them. Across the Anteep, really good. It was actually written for Skylarking, which I didn't know. So you could hear that actually. Hold Me Daddy is a troubled relationship again with his father. It's got an African guitar sound, which is.
Did he write this after his father died, or was it?
No, he was still alive. Apparently, he played it with his dad, and his dad struggled to hear it. He was uncomfortable, I think. Pink, I believe, I could be wrong though. Pink Thing, the subject matter he described as ambiguous, because it wasn't just about his willy. Apparently, it was. He used to call his kids, but his kids he used to call them pink things, which I thought was quite sweet actually. But yeah, you got that sort of sense. You got that sense of ambivalence, haven't you? You know, the ambiguity between both. You know, I'm ambivalent about the thought there, but the ambiguous sort of imagery there, yeah, odd. But it's great, really funny, and I've just written here, Talking Adults and Children, masterpiece, which I think it is. The last 2 are just amazing. I don't think there's a bad song on it. It's one of those rare double albums that really works for me. It's outstanding. It's 5 stars. Ursula, what have you got at number 2?
Right, number 2, I've got Skylarking. Again, it has been my number 1, but I think for Skylarking, it's a brilliant album. I like the sort of concept idea of it, the way that they fit sort of like 4 seasons into one record, or it's a progression of you know, it starts with like young love in the summertime and the springtime, and then they get a bit older and they fall out and they have the heartbreak like 1,000 Umbrellas and Ain't Enough for Us, where they're having a bit of hardship in their life, and then it progresses onto like the their older times when they're you know, getting ill and dying, which is, you know, Colin's son dying, and then obviously, you know, the bit at the end where you know, cremation, like the sacrificial bonfire. I think it's a really clever album, the way it's been put together. And I think it might have been Todd Rundgren that came up with the order. I think Andy Partridge said he came up with the order, but I think subconsciously, I think, you know, Colin and Andy must have known they were writing these kind of songs about, you know, about this sort of progression through life. It's just a really clever album. And the highlights for me, I love Summer's Cauldron. I think it's a great start to the album. It is really summery. You can sort of hear the bees buzzing and everything in it. 1,000 Umbrellas is a really great song, just the arrangement of it. I mean, I've not heard anything like it before. It's a really clever song. And the lyrics, you know, about him sort of, you know, like crying, and that's what because again with XTC, you think it's about something, you think it's about a rainy day or something, but it's about, you know, 1,000 umbrellas wouldn't catch all these tears, and very clever lyrics again. I love Sacrificial Bonfire. I love Dying. It's just a really good album from start to finish. The only reason I put it at number 2 is I think it's all the songs are quite samey. Had to mix them up a bit and had a few sort of more up-tempo ones as well as mellow ones. I think it might have been a sort of a bang on 5 out of 5, but I think because it's all a bit sort of mellow theme towards, like, throughout the album, I think that's what just slightly lets it down slightly. But apart from that, I think it's a perfect XTC album. So I give it about 4.9 out of 5.
Right. It's almost like a concept album in terms of the feel, though, isn't it? You're dead right.
Yes,
Dead
it
right.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know who came up with the string arrangements on that? Was that?
I think that was Dave Gregory. I think.
Oh, was it?
I think.
Brilliant arrangements, like on.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I think he's the
That's the umbrellas. There's 1,000
yes,
umbrellas.
1,000 umbrellas. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was Dave Gregory. Yeah. But really clever. The whole album's just really clever, isn't it?
Right, Ian. Oh, that's brilliant, that though.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Ian. What you got? Number 2.
Right, number 2. I've just realised I had sheets of paper. Number 1's gone missing. Like I'll have to just
just make it up.
Yeah, I will have up to now. Number 2, I've got Apple Venus. And this one I've got it 5 stars again. Well, you know, I've already peaked, haven't I? So we know that all the rest of them are going to be 5 stars. I find it quite funny that it's yet another cover that Andy Partridge wanted to get, like, similarity with Female Anatomy on with the peacock's feather, like, you know, which originally was the other way up, but it's been re-released with it kind of upside down. I think in terms of this is where I think you know, it became the Andy Partridge show after, like, this album. Colin Mullins, I think he's only got a couple of songs on this, but they're really good songs. They're a bit light compared to Andy Partridge's songs, but as an album, I can't praise it high enough, and it's not on a lot of people's radars, and it never was on mine till I spoke to my mate Colin, who was always raving about it. I'm thinking, what's he on about? I've kind of heard it, and I just kind of put it down. And I don't know whether it was the orchestral thing that kind of, whoa, this is an XTC. And once you get over that and you kind of realize, well, actually, the orchestral arrangements are absolutely superb. And it takes them into a territory that they hadn't even, you know, it's broadened it even further to the like the studio album band sound, that they could push it to like a full-on orchestra. I think it's one of these where people who haven't played it and played it and played it will kind of have it quite low on their lists, but the more you play it, it just rises up, and it's an absolutely brilliant. The songwriting is, I don't know if he's ever written better songs than these. You know, Andy Partridge. There's so many great, descriptive, clever songs, and all worked out to you know, so detailed, and as I said before, everything's there for a reason. It's a lush sounding album, and yeah, Ursula, you mentioned the raindrops. It's just absolutely brilliant start of the album. It just starts with the raindrops and then slowly builds with like a kind of orchestral crescendo, and it's a brilliant song, that all about kind of all the roads turning back into nature, you know, and nature winning over kind of man with all the concrete and that sort of thing. Easter Theatre, lyrically excellent. It's just poetry, and it's got a fantastic verse, chorus, hook, contrast, you know. And I enjoy Colin's songs on it, because I think they lighten it up a bit, which perhaps the album does need, you know, just to placed in the you know, that they're placed in the right part of the album. Yeah, so Colin's second song, Fruit Note, which is really humorous song, comes in right at the right place before mentioned, and they blend. And I think the kind of one song builds to the other, builds to the other, and those three songs just get better and better. That's like Can't Own Her, Harvest Festival, and The Last Balloon. I think everybody's had that kind of feeling, you know, I can't own her, and I never will, kind of those sort of feelings. But the Harvest Festival one, I think, is brilliant. They're all meeting up with, you know, some girl he obviously used to love in the past, and she's getting married. But it's melancholic, but he takes with it that he should give him one last look before she got married, and that kind of made it for him. You know, that was it. That was what he could take comfort from. And then I talked about The Last Balloon on the last thing, so I'll not go on about that. But an absolutely brilliant end to the album. You know, so that's album. It's, you know, one of my favorite albums. Probably, if it's not number 2, it's number 1. You know, right. So
cool stuff. Well, my number 2, before we go into number 2, folks, just a reminder, please subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button. Please like as well. It will boost our numbers. My number 2, and I'm really torn here. I'm going to throw a coin up, really. But I've gone with Black Sea. It could have been one or the other. But I've gone with Black Sea. Everything's roughly been said about it. It's a 5-star album, of course, produced by Steve Lillywhite. I think Hugh Padgham was assistant as well. I could be wrong. It's you know, it starts with Respectable Street, which I mentioned on the other show, and it's that real Kinks type song, you know, the kitchen twitchers, as you describe them, the sort of old Hilda Ogden types, if you like, and he does it brilliantly. He really summarizes people's sort of views and look in, and the lyrics are really sharp. In fact, the lyrics on the whole album are really sharp and hard hitting and cynical. This is probably the most cynical album I think that they make, but it's so well produced. I mean, Generals and Majors, of course, the title itself tells you. A great cynical pop song. Living in Another Cuba, super. Again, carries on that idea of cynicism. No Language in Our Lungs, which you mentioned earlier on, and I just wrote an excellent vocal effects as well. Tower of London, Paper and Iron, the drumming is brilliant on it. And in fact, I'm going to go as far to say I think the second side of the album is even better if it's possible than the first side. Burning with Optimism's Flame, lovely. It's really light, and so it just brings a little bit of light into the sort of darkness of some of the songs on the album. Sergeant Rock, super, great riff. And then Travels in Nihil, or whatever you want to pronounce it. Amazing drum sound, amazing drum sound. Not an average song on the album. Everything is all killer, no filler, I think is the phrase. And one thing I want to add is that on the 2001 remaster, when they brought out the booster tracks, the bonuses, they're all fantastic. Smokeless Zone, brilliant. Don't Lose Your Temper, just one of the best pop songs that they did. And Somnambulist it actually sums up where it is, that sort of sleepy feeling. And I've just written every one of them is an absolute belter. All great tunes, beautiful feel. Not in fact, when I go to the pub in about 20 minutes, that's the album I'm going to stick on the way down. It's fantastic album, start to finish, superb production, great tunes. So that's my number 2. Ursula, what's your number 1 then?
Well, my number 1, I'm just going to echo what you've just said there, because I feel exactly the same about Black Sea. Black Sea, like I said, it could have been any of the last 3 was my number 1, but I just think it's a really uplifting, consistently good album. You put it on from start to finish, and every song is really sort of, it grabs your attention. They're really good, sort of hard-hitting songs to listen to. It's got 2 of my favorite XT singles on it, Generals and Majors, which is one of Colin's best ones, and Sergeant Rock as well. That's another great XTC single. And I just think from start to finish, I mean, the only song I probably don't like as much as the others is probably Respectable Street, but even that one's still good, you know, it's still above average. But they're all great songs. No Language in Our Lungs is great. And Paper and Iron, I think that's a wonderful song. And it's just a consistently good album. There's not a bad track in it. And so that one is my number 1 XTC album. Oh, and I give it just about 5 out of 5, I think, that one.
Hey, whistles.
Going back to that opening track, they wanted that scratchy 78 kind of sound at the beginning, and they said, "Oh, how are we going to get that? And has anybody got any records?" And nobody had, but I think it was Hugh Padgham had a test pressing of Peter Gabriel, so they got their keys out and scratched all that, and that's actually what you're hearing at the beginning of the record.
Right, Ian, what's your number 1?
Well, no surprises there. It's English Settlement. I haven't got my notes on this one, but actually I wrote notes on all the albums, but on this one, all I did was basically just list all the songs, because they're all, I love the fact that this one's a double. I love all the songs. I think it flows. It's to me, it's the XTC equivalent to Quadrophenia. It just, you play from start to finish, and I'm disappointed when it gets to the end. You know, I just want to play it again. I absolutely love this album. It does kind of, it's got the same kind of theme all the way through, but it does change style a little bit, but nothing too drastic. It does, I think the track list in order is really well put together. And, you know, I don't know where to start. I just love all the songs on this one. We talked about Senses Working Overtime, so I'll not talk about that. Ball and Chain, we've talked about that. Runaways, I think it's a brilliant opener for the album. Was that a single or was it not? It wasn't, was it?
I
No.
don't think so.
But it kind of sets the tone for the whole album, and I think it's just got, production wise, it's brilliant. All the instruments mixed really well, and the drums sound excellent on this one. And you know, some highlights are Jason and the Argonauts, No Thugs in Our House, Yacht Dance, Melt the Guns, Daily Africa, Knuckle Down, Fly on the Wall, English Roundabout, which I've only been to Swindon once to see Newcastle play Swindon. And the two things I remember about Swindon was what was their old ground called? They might be still there.
Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, it was falling to bits. It had kind of, I remember going, it had kind of emergency ladders that kind of stopped halfway in it, and because we're rusted, you know, like you'd see at the beach, and they'd obviously just fallen off and they just left it. But the other thing I remember was we crossed the magic roundabout by foot, which is like, it's a big roundabout in the middle of the road.
Massive.
And it's got like 5 or 6 roundabouts around it. It's absolutely crazy. So you end up going the wrong way around the roundabout. You could, because you're going, you know, you can travel on each roundabout. But I think the idea of it was that because you've got these 6 roundabouts going round the main roundabout, that you don't have to travel all the way around. You can just do the first little one and turn right and you're off, you know. But it's crazy, and I imagine driving on one of those would be like, you wouldn't know where to look because there's cars coming in every direction. That was the inspiration for English Roundabout, and I love Snowman. I think it's another really clever song, Andy Partridge, about relationships and the way his girlfriend's treating him and relating it to, you know, Frosty and I absolutely love it. I can't praise this album enough. I could listen to it, you know, 2 or 3 times in a row and not get bored with it. And kind of that. And it all comes back to one of the reasons why I love XTC is because they are Swindon, you know, that it's them and they kind of own that, even though they took a lot of stick when they were starting out and everyone thought they were country yokels and all that. But
I love their accents too. I think
yeah, they sing that they don't affect American accent or anything.
Yeah,
you know,
makes the songs, I think.
Yeah, so that's what I'm finishing on, English Settlement. Absolutely
good
love
stuff. Well, my number one, as you've obviously worked out then, is English Settlement. So you've said everything I want to say. I mean, Hugh Padgham produces it superbly. It's one of the rare double albums that is just bang on. Not, you know, it's not for me. There's not, you know, there aren't too many tracks, and it's just great. We've said all the things before. Ball and Chain, it's an attack on Thatcher's government and stuff, and the destruction of all beautiful buildings. Senson's working overtime. I've mentioned it on the other show. It's a great song. Could have been done by The Who. Jason the Argonauts, great. No Thugs, again, a song about having a racist in the family's great song. Melt the Guns, clear message to America, with the weirdest, quirky, bizarre tunes that you've got. It shouldn't work, but it does.
Do you like the ending?
I love the whole thing about it.
Tick, 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 tick. Absolutely brilliant.
It's just brilliant. It's really clever. It's Nearly Africa, another great rhythm again. The drums, just superb rhythm. Down the Cockpits in 5/4, which is a weird time signature. It's got that ska feel, which is just past actually, but still works really well. And then I've written English Roundabout, and you've got that there, but I've actually written down It's Like a Beat song. Reminds me of something that the Beat would,
it is quite similar, yeah.
Yeah, sort of thing that the Beat would have written. And then Snowman, I've great. I've just written, yeah, it's great. There's not a bad song on it for me. I love the whole thing. The artwork as well, of course, summarising the area, the famous white horse, is brilliant. You know, it's a bit like us having the Tyne Bridge sort of thing. You know, in a specific area just by a landmark, and that's I think that's outstanding as well. Sums the band up to a T in a weird sort of way. Some of the albums can almost be summed up by that landmark. You know, Skylarkin would have been perfect with that sort of cover on as well. You know, that sort of very English sort of sound. So yeah, there we have it. Some slight differences there and some huge differences at time during this. Some really interesting discussion. I really enjoyed that. I've some real different choices. So folks, if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and hit the like button. So from Ursula, Ian,
Bye.
and myself,
Goodbye.
thank you very much and goodbye.